Hey, 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 YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, welcome, welcome, welcome. Come on in, come on in. Hope you all had a wonderful holiday. Come on in, like, share, subscribe. We got some things to get into as we're nearing the end of this year, going into 2025. I just want to talk about some things. We about learning over here, asking these questions, seeking out answers. We're the honor students, so come on in here, come on in here. Let's talk about some serious things. We have to talk about some things. Today, I learned some alarming information about my local area. I am a resident of Metro Atlanta in Georgia. Come on in, come on in, come on in. Like, share, and subscribe. We're going to get into some things. We're going to get into some things coming off of Christmas. I hope you all had a wonderful holiday, a wonderful Christmas. You had some great moments that you shared with your family and loved ones. But there are some things, y'all, we got to talk about. We have our moments where it's all fun and games and we can kiki. But then, we got them moments. We got to get down to business. And that's one of these moments. So come on in here, honor students. Let me know you in here. Where you at? How was your holiday? We got some things to get into. Hey, Royal D. She said, hi, Chic Speaks, new to your channel. And I was told about your channel. Hi. Did Ariane, maybe it was Ariane. Did Ariane tell you about my channel? I believe she mentioned you to me. So, yeah, welcome. Thank you for joining. Please feel free to engage in this. Okay. Yes. Yeah. So thank you for joining. So today on topic, and I can drop the link if you want to engage in this conversation with me. But I want to just talk about the AIDS, HIV epidemic within our community. And it severely impacts us, not only physically, but also mentally as well. So it does impact our mental health, how we see ourselves, learning about contracting such just a horrible, I guess, disease. But, many people are living with it today. But you have to be aware that you have it, so you know what you need to do to be able to take care of yourself to survive it. So a lot of times, when people learn that they have, HIV AIDS, it does something to them mentally, to where a lot of times they don't even talk about it and they don't even share that information with people. So again, it continues to spread. You got some that probably would just sit in denial. Then you got some who are just in their feelings. They're angry. They feel like, okay, well, if someone gave it to me, then I'm gonna give it to someone else. And next thing you know, child is running rampant, and we got numbers like we got. And that's why we are here today to talk about it. What's up, Pearl? How are you? So I want to get into some things because, like I said, I live in Georgia. I live in Metro Atlanta. And I'm going to share my screen, y'all. But there's a couple of things I want to share with you today. There's a couple of things. But first, I want to just share some information that I found out about, my local area where I live. So if you see my screen, let me try to make it bigger. So I am a resident. Welcome to my channel. If you're new to my channel, hey, my name is Chic. My channel is Chic Speaks. On this channel, we talk all things health, mental health, physical health, just everything pertaining to just living a better, healthy life so you can present the best version of you. So with that being said, we're going to talk about this HIV thing, because today I learned some information. See, I knew that Atlanta, had a, pretty high case of, HIV cases. They had high numbers. But I didn't know it was like this. So if you can see my screen, there's this article I came across. from Morehouse. Morehouse is a local HBCU college here in Atlanta, all boys school. And Morehouse School of Medicine put this information out, and it says new HIV case rate in Metro Atlanta is the third highest in the nation. Child, I mean, like I said, I knew our numbers was crazy, but we're listed as number three. And when I did a search to see who was before us, it was Houston and Florida. So I think Houston was like 1, Florida 2, and then Atlanta 3. So I thought that was crazy, y'all. So this article goes on to say that the 20 county Atlanta metro areas had the third highest rate of new HIV diagnosis among U.S. metro areas in 2021 at 1,500 cases, new cases at a rate of 25.4 new diagnoses of every 100,000 people in metro Atlanta. Y'all, that's insane. That is insane. It also goes on to say the rate is 2 times greater than all other metropolitan areas and 2.5 times higher than the rate nationwide. Y'all, that's why I had to come on here and talk about it, because they said, listen, Atlanta, y'all done damn outdone the whole damn nation 2 times over. What are we doing, y'all? What are we doing? What are we doing? So I came across a documentary that I want to share, just bringing life to this situation. It was a documentary that Lisa Ling did on the OWN network. And I wanted to come on and share it and kind of review it, because I think it's important for us to understand how we got here. Like how did we get here? Prettiest in and out says, hey, she can chat, must needed conversation. Thank you for that. And yes, it is. It's so much stuff that we talk about on this internet, a lot of foolishness, but there comes times when you got to get down to business and talk about the things that are really impacting our community. And this HIV thing is really, y'all, it's taking over. Let me know, drop in the comment where you are located, what city and state you're located in, and if you are aware of there being any high cases, for your particular area. For example, like before starting up this live, I was, as I was researching for this live, I seen that Jackson, Mississippi was known at one point as being one of the top places, with HIV cases. And the thing I found to be very interesting as I was just looking at this documentary I came about, I was going to maybe show that one, but then I came across this other one. I don't know. We might get into that one too, but it was, what I learned is that, in Jackson, Mississippi, there are a lot of DL guys, and then it's not a place where they welcome homosexuality in particular, in men and Black men. So you have a lot of DL men there, and it's about 50% chance of basically you catching it there. Like y'all, child, 1 in 2 people got it. Like, that's how crazy, it was saying, like, at Jackson, Mississippi numbers were. And I think the documentary that I was watching, I think it was maybe like 8 years old. So it's not just insane here in Atlanta, like it's crazy all over, but it looks like Atlanta is just like, like I said, one of the top 3 places. So I'm going to share my screen because I want to share with you all, get into this documentary that Lisa Ling did. And it's just, profiling, highlighting just this crisis within our community. And as you see, it says Black America's Silent Epidemic, Our America, with Lisa Ling. So I want to get into this. Please drop a comment, question, whatever you have pertaining to what we learned from this documentary, because clearly we need change. And there are a lot of, and it's not even like, so for example, I'm married. I've been married 20 plus years. So I'm not dating, but what I'm coming to learn is that there are a lot of people who are in actual relationships, including marriages, and people are stepping out of those relationships. And as we talk about with the whole DL situation, And as I've been learning, so you have a lot of men, they are married men, they've been married for a really long time, but they step out of their marriages and go do their thing and come back home. So for those of us who may think like, oh, well, I'm married, I'm good. You know what you're doing and how you move, but you can't really 100% speak on what your partner is doing and how they move. You can hope or feel in your heart that they know better and to not be doing certain things. But based on the way these numbers are looking, like people really aren't really knowing who these people are they're sleeping with. They not. Because if they were aware, like these numbers wouldn't be looking the way they're looking. So it's beyond a thing where it's just the singles having to deal with this. Like it's people who are booed up and who are married and things like that have to deal with this as well. So keep all that in mind, as we get into some things, get into the documentary, listen to what people have to say and their story. And my thing is, like, anyone who is in a relationship and you are aware that your partner steps out on you and you just been dealing with it, like you might have to really start thinking about it beyond, okay, but I love him. But what about your life? Do you love your life? Because a lot of times when these people are stepping out, they're not protecting themselves. And then, hell, child, y'all got people who be catching stuff and be claiming up and down. Well, I use some. I don't understand. You got people who get pregnant saying that, hey, I was using something and I still got pregnant. So the only thing that's really 100% is just abstinence, just damn not doing it. But anytime, and if you're not practicing abstinence, there's going to be a risk of just anything, STD, pregnancy, or whatever, when you get engaged in sexual activities. So just want to put that out there just to make sure we cover all bases for our singles and our people who are in relationships. Prettiest In and Out says, I'm in Florida, Oviedo. The numbers are insane. I used to volunteer at a place that assisted with these things to promoting a clean living for the low income. So yes, during my research, I was kind of surprised. I had never heard any talks about Florida. So when I researched to see who was ahead of Atlanta, I wasn't surprised when I seen Houston, because I remember a couple of years ago hearing about like a big syphilis little situation outbreak they was having out there, because a lot of women during childbirth, they were learning that they had it. So I wasn't surprised with the Houston, but the Florida, I was kind of surprised by the Florida because I just had never heard any conversations centered around like high STD, HIV cases in Florida. But, I know Florida's a hot spot. Like everybody like to run to Florida, go to Miami. So from that sense, okay. But I just never just heard anyone like mentioning Florida in conversations just when I'm on YouTube. Florida just wasn't a place. Also, I found that, it's a lot of the numbers are really high for people who live in the South. So I'm like, wow. So I was talking to my husband about this and I'm like, what is the deal with the southern states having the high cases, the high numbers? Is it because that's where most Black people reside? Because remember, I said that most of the numbers, the high 40%, you see it inside of the video, 40% of the cases are among Black people. So what is it that Black people are the ones that are getting it and spreading it, like doing it the most? Like, are we moving differently than other groups of people as far as like when it comes to taking care of ourselves, protecting ourselves, knowledge? Like, what's the deal? Let's talk about it. Why is it that it's almost like, are we not getting the memo that this thing is out here and that it's a life-threatening, disease? And, like I said, some people are starting to live with it. If they take care of themselves, they take their medications, but it's like we're moving out here like it's just like a common cold. You get it, and then you take your little whatever, your little cold medicine, and you go about your business. And it's way more serious than that. So put that out there. But yes, come on in. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Please like, share, subscribe. Happy holidays. I hope you all had a wonderful Christmas. But let's get into this video and see what these people got to say, y'all. What does these people got to say about this HIV/AIDS epidemic that we're dealing with in present times? Fair use.
Public health officials say it is a deadly epidemic among gay men. What began in the gay community quickly spiraled out of control and across ethnic and demographic lines.
A potentially fatal disease unknown just months ago is spreading so quickly that doctors now say it's a national epidemic.
But today, far from over, HIV is a plague that is striking one population more than any other.
Just by a show of hands, how many people have been affected by HIV?
Black Americans are nearly 8 times more likely than white Americans to be HIV positive. But why? Tonight, we'll meet people at the center of America's silent epidemic. A single woman who was looking for love. What did you think of HIV before you contracted it?
It's not gonna happen to me.
A young gay man who fears an early death.
I don't see myself being 60. I maybe see 35, but I don't see that far.
And a survivor who's lived his entire life with HIV.
I never thought I would make it this far.
I'll meet a woman who believes her husband infected her, and a former drug abuser who may have infected countless women. Do you feel remorse?
Absolutely. That is something I wish I could take back.
Tonight, we'll share their stories and their courage to come out of the shadows for the very first time.
I just want everybody to know that I'm coming out. I mean, I'm HIV positive, and that's it.
America, it can be inspiring and beautiful. It can also be dark and ugly. It's so many things, but it's ours. It's our America. Three decades have passed and AIDS has largely disappeared from the news, but a silent epidemic still lives among us. And nowhere is the HIV infection rate higher than in our nation's capital. 3% of Washington, D.C.'s population is HIV positive or has AIDS, numbers that surpass many African countries. And some of the hardest hit are women. This is 56-year-old Daphne. She's a case manager at the Women's Collective, a place for women who are coping with HIV in the heart of D.C. Hey, Daphne and Lisa. How are you? Nice to meet you.
I'm good.
For some of the new clients, is it hard for them to kind of come clean about the things that they've been through?
Well, once they sit down, I tell them I'm Daphne and I'm HIV positive. And I've been positive for 17 years. I had to go through some of the things that you went through. So I know your walk. We have the same story.
Several decades ago, Daphne, a divorced mother of 2 in her late 30s, was looking for a fresh start.
I come from a very large family, and I think I was looking for that. I just feel like I wanted to be loved. You know, I just wanted to have a relationship with someone who loved me back. I was looking for love in all the wrong places.
At a party, Daphne met a man through a family member.
He came along, and I guess he was saying what I wanted to hear.
But the relationship didn't last. And after they broke up, an acquaintance told Daphne the last thing she wanted to hear.
She was saying, you know, he has that thing. And I'm like, what? He's HIV positive. He didn't tell you? And I walked to the clinic one day to get tested. And I kept saying, nah, they're keeping me too long, so it must be negative. And they came back and told me I was positive. That day was, I mean, it was like, I couldn't believe that this was happening to me.
And keep in mind, this woman, you know, she was dating a man. She had sex with him. Clearly, it sounds like it wasn't protected. So let's keep that in mind, or talk about that as to how long should you know someone first before you have unprotected sex with them, because it didn't give a timeline on how long she knew this guy, but it don't seem like it was too long. But listen, she was just wanting to be loved, looking for love. And there are so many people who are in that situation where they just want somebody. They're lonely. You got a lot of women. And like I said, I live in Metro Atlanta. There are a lot of beautiful single women here, single Black women. A lot of women do desire to have marriage, desire to have children. And a lot of women are doing just the absolute most for men, just in hopes that they're chosen. And some of these things that they're doing is life-threatening, like, you know, having unprotected sex, having sex with multiple partners in a short period of time. These are things that put our lives at risk. And like I said, Black people, it's like we are not getting the memo on how serious this is because of how large our numbers are. It's like we're moving differently than other groups of people. And the question is, why? Why are we moving differently than other groups of people? PM says, wow, this is sad. I just don't understand why our people are not getting the memo. We're not getting it. Brat Baby say, hey, everyone, I'm in the bushes listening while I clean. What's up, Brat Baby? We see you. Hey, T Goddess. Hello. Welcome. Happy holidays, everyone. Brat Baby said, I think it's the younger generation. They didn't see the devastation it caused, and now they know you can take medication and live a normal life. So yes, as I was, researching this, and I was in the comments on one of the videos I seen, and there was a guy who said in 2016, he was at one of these HBCU colleges and in Georgia, and he said that they were just pushing PrEP, like advertising, like, oh, okay, well, here, make sure you got your PrEP. Like this is what you need to have on hand. And so the message has been more so with, okay, not so much on preventative, how do you not get or contract this? It's more of, okay, well, I mean, it's likely you're probably going to get it. So let's just talk about if you get it, what you do from there. And that's where PrEP come in, like, which is like a medication or something that I believe people who haven't contracted HIV, they can take that. And if they have sex with someone, they won't transmit it. So I believe that's what PrEP is. But I could be wrong, could be more to it. But it seemed like it's something that people who have HIV take, and it helps them to not spread it. So I'm thinking that, okay, well, if they take their PrEP and they don't have protected sex, then the PrEP is still supposed to kind of prevent them from passing it along. So that's just my little basic understanding of what it is. But I haven't done a deep dive into PrEP to see exactly what that is. We may be able to get into that. But for now, this is the documentary. Lisa Lynn is in our community asking our people, what's going on? How did we get here? And we're listening to a woman talk about, listen, I was looking for love. This man came in my life, said all the right things, had me feeling warm and fuzzy inside, got my cookies, and then he dipped on out. And then I learned from a friend that he was HIV positive, whatever. And I'm like, what? Went and got tested, and sure enough. So that is this particular woman's story. So let's get back into this documentary. Fair use. Y'all, please like, share, and subscribe.
And I'm like, God, why me? I'm not that. I never prostituted. I never was in the street. I never did these things. Why is this happening to me?
What was the reaction of your kids right when you told them you were HIV positive?
My daughter kind of looked at me like, why?
It was difficult news for Daphne's daughter to accept, and she refused to speak to her mom for a year. Filled with shame, Daphne spiraled.
I didn't want to comb my hair. I didn't want to come outside. I would sit there and cry, contemplating about committing suicide. You feel like you're not normal no more. Like you're walking down a dark alley and you're scared.
What were you so afraid of?
I was just didn't want nobody to know.
Fear of what others may think is a feeling that drove Daphne's every move.
This is where I used to live.
So you used to go to this clinic? Mm-hmm. Back in her old neighborhood, Daphne shows me the steps she took to hide her diagnosis.
I walked all the way around, come down this street right here, and went down and came up to this alley.
Why did you do that?
Because I didn't want people to see me going into this clinic.
So anyone who walked into one of these clinics, you knew they had HIV or AIDS?
During that time, in this neighborhood, yeah.
But with each visit to the clinic, Daphne began to understand something new. She could live with HIV. Fueled by new hope, she found the courage to confide in her most trusted allies, her mother, aunt, sister, and best friend. So how did you feel when Daphne told you that she was HIV positive? Mama, how did you feel?
When she came to me and told me, of course I cried. And then I took her in my arms and I told her it's all right. It broke my heart, but on the other side, it made me love her just that much more because she loved me enough to come to me and tell me.
Do you think most families in this area have been affected by HIV in some way? Like someone in the family?
Yeah. Most families have and have not. They may not always talk about it openly.
And why do you all think HIV is so pervasive in the African American community?
In the Black community, a lot of people, they don't have health care. You don't have a lot of Blacks who go regular to get checkups. That doesn't happen. I worked in a public health clinic. Even though we was doing free testing, very few people would want to be tested. They didn't want other people to know they was being tested for it.
There's such a stigma attached to HIV.
So many people that's uneducated about it. I myself wasn't educated, and I did not become educated until my daughter got sick, which I'm ashamed to say.
People have already stereotyped it as you're going to die.
The epidemic in DC is centered in areas like Daphne's old neighborhood, where the infection rate amongst straight Black women has doubled from 6 to 12% in just 2 years. Here, poverty and incarceration are rampant. Would you say that a decent number of the men in this area have been to prison?
Yes, and majority of the men have been, at one time or another, been locked up. Yes.
That was the case for the man who infected you, right?
Right.
Daphne doesn't know for sure, but she thinks the man who infected her got HIV while he was in prison.
In jail, they are having sex with men. They don't consider themselves gay either. And women wait for these men to come home, and these men come home with HIV, and they're telling these women that they're infected. They get out of this relationship, then they go sleep with someone else. And I call it the Infinity Act, because they sleep with someone else, and then they go on and go on and on and on.
This theory about how HIV spreads in the Black community is widespread, but a man in Rhode Island tells a different story. In the colonial town of Providence is a charming house with a white picket fence and a swimming pool. It looks just like the American dream, but the journey to get here has been anything but for Sonny and his wife, Christina.
Son, did you take your meds?
No, I didn't. I should have took them last night. I keep doing it.
One of the reasons why your count and your loads are the way they are is because you're taking your medication.
Yeah.
Sonny is 41 years old and HIV positive. He takes 3 pills every day to keep the virus from attacking his immune system. For Sonny, medication is a lifeline. By sticking to treatment, he stays healthy and productive. But Sonny didn't always feel his life was worth saving.
I was a person who didn't think he was going to live till he was 25. I didn't care about anything. My own life, anybody else's life.
Sonny was an addict with a nearly 20-year addiction to drugs and easy money.
I've done everything from steal cars to selling drugs to pimping. I've done a lot of things.
And for his crimes, Sonny has done a lot of hard time. He's been in and out of the Rhode Island correctional system a total of 47 times, a revolving door that would carry serious consequences. In Rhode Island, taking an HIV test is mandatory upon lockup, and it's how many inmates learn they are HIV positive for the first time.
I had just gotten released in '94. I was out for a few months, so when I went in, I was negative. When I came back, I was positive.
There are many ways to get HIV in prison, through drug use, tattooing, and unprotected sex. But studies have found that most inmates, like Sonny, have already contracted the virus before they're locked up. Can I ask you if you know how you contracted HIV?
IV drug use. It's very hard when you're a heroin addict and you're around a group of people who are all sick in the morning and one person has a needle and, it's either stay sick or share the needle.
In jail and newly diagnosed, Sonny began taking HIV medication. But once he got out, he stopped. As soon as he hit the streets, his addiction got in the way.
I had the drugs that mattered to me, and that was street drugs.
The pattern continued each time Sonny got locked up, a pattern with a heavy price. By starting and stopping HIV treatment, Sonny's health began to decline.
I got really close to being diagnosed with AIDS, and I had really been out on the streets using a lot of drugs.
So you got diagnosed with HIV in '95, and then continuously entered prison, got out of prison, kept coming in and out. And you, during this time, were still doing drugs?
Yes.
Intravenously?
Yes.
Having sex with women?
Yes.
And when you were having unprotected sex, did you ever disclose that you were HIV positive to people?
Not if it wasn't going to be in my life. It was something that just involved getting high or a street hustle.
So this man said, he learned he had HIV, and for years he just kind of kept that to himself, didn't really tell anyone. I think that's what's happening a lot with why the numbers are spreading, because people aren't disclosing their status for a number of reasons. Some are in denial about having it. Some are angry. They just don't care. So some stats that I want to share with you, someone mentioned, the younger people just kind of moving recklessly when it comes to just their sexual activity. So one stat is in 2022, the largest number of new HIV infections were in people ages 25 to 34. People aged 13 to 24 accounted for 20% of new HIV infections in 2022. For gender in 2019, 79% of people diagnosed with HIV in Georgia were male, 19% were female, and 2% transgender. As far as race, in 2019, 71% of people diagnosed with HIV in Georgia were Black, 10% were Hispanic, and 67% was MSM. Not sure what exactly they mean by MSM. Let me see. Hold on. Let's get back to where we're at. So yeah, people out here just knowing that, they have, HIV or AIDS, and they're just not sharing it. Like I feel like that's happening more often than not. For the numbers to be what they are, I feel like it's happening mainly because people aren't disclosing their status. It is what it is. That's why you got to take care of yourselves and just be aware of what's going on out here, so you know how to move out here in these streets, regardless of what city, state, location, country, wherever you're at. You're still dealing with people that think kind of very similarly, which is like, oh, okay, well, it is what it is. It's no big deal. There's medications that help you live longer. But here's the thing: when it comes to living with HIV or AIDS, you have to be taking your medications. So if you're in denial about even having it, not taking your medication, not taking it consistently, then there goes that. So you're not going to have a long life. And those are the people who don't survive it, a lot of the times, because they either didn't know they had it, or they had it and they just didn't take their medication. So we got to move responsibly out here nonetheless, whether we know, okay, this is what we have, or even if to us it's like, hey, I don't even have that. Either way, you still need to move responsibly, because it can save your life and someone else's.
No.
How many people do you think you could have infected, given the fact that you continued to use drugs intravenously and have unprotected sex for so many years?
Dozens of people.
That's crazy.
Between using and sexual. Dozens.
This man said dozens.
Remorse?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's not a lot of days I'll say I wish I could take my life back because it's created the character I have. But that piece is something I wish I could take back. If I did infect somebody, there's no way I can say I'm sorry. Only thing I can do is not do it anymore, and to try to make people aware of other people who will do it.
Sonny has come a long way from the reckless attitude he carried on the streets. As an addict, he put countless women at risk, including the woman he loved. Although Sonny didn't disclose his HIV status to everyone, he did tell his future wife, Christina. During their early years as a couple, they lived a roller coaster ride of shared addiction and unprotected sex.
I knew that he was positive and I didn't care. Like, it was just about that fix, like nothing else mattered.
And then came the unplanned pregnancies.
I could have passed the virus on to my kids, and that was a fear that I had when I was pregnant.
You want one English muffin or two?
Two.
The chances are perhaps 1 in a million. But miraculously, neither Christina or her children paid the ultimate price for her risky behavior. They are all free of HIV.
Lord, thank you for the food we're about to receive. Let it nourish our bodies, our hearts, and our souls.
The couple finally got clean 6 years ago.
Amen.
Today, Christina knows she's extremely lucky to be alive and has a new sense of responsibility.
I want to be able to be present for my kids. If I contract the virus, all right, I contract it, but what about everybody else that needs me? What's going to happen to my kids if mommy's not around?
Today, Sonny and Christina are very protective of the life they built. And when they have sex, they use condoms.
The long time picture is the boys need a mother. I mean, thank God you haven't ever gotten sick. I'll be around as long as I take my medication.
In spite of their rocky start, Sonny has done his best to be open and honest with Christina. But what happens when trust is broken? 46-year-old Kimberly's marriage fell apart 3 years ago, and she's returned home to share with her family the reasons why. In 2009, Kimberly met a man in Arizona and fell in love. After 6 months of dating, they got married, and just a few months later, he fell gravely ill. Advised by his nurse, Kimberly took an HIV test and found out she was positive. Although unaware of her status prior to marriage, Kimberly believes her husband had AIDS and that he was the one who infected her. You were in a committed, monogamous relationship with your husband. Why do you think your husband chose to not disclose his status to you? It's a pretty big thing to withhold.
To leave out, yes. Well, I can just tell you what he said. It was because he thought that I would leave, that I wouldn't want to be involved with him.
A year later, Kimberly did leave her husband, but she couldn't let go of what she feared others would say about her own diagnosis.
At the time of my diagnosis, I was very involved with my church. I had grown so much spiritually, and this seemed like a total setback to me. When people first mention HIV and AIDS, the initial thoughts are drug use, being promiscuous. I didn't want people to think that that was my situation because it wasn't.
Kimberly hoped she would find acceptance in her community church in Arizona. What was the reaction of your church when you came out?
Initially, it was one of embracing me and we're here for you. But as time went on, I started to see some of the stigma and ignorance that they had, people seeming as if they were being more careful around me.
So what did it feel like when they rejected you?
It was very hurtful because I was so far away from my natural family. They had become my family.
Shunned and shamed by her former parish, Kimberly decided to keep her secret to herself and away from those she loved most.
There was the darkness of not being able to share with my family, being a part of a church family that I really couldn't share with either. I really came to understand how a secret can really haunt you, how a secret can really break you.
A realization that came to Kimberly one morning in prayer.
I heard God say, I'm going to remove all of your shame, and I'm going to use you in a mighty way.
At that moment, Kimberly found her purpose. She would use her voice to break through the silence. If she were struggling, surely others were as well. But before she stands on the pulpit to talk about HIV, she must first confide in her family. Are you nervous about telling your sisters that you're HIV positive?
Yes. I don't want them to be afraid that I've been gone away from home. And I don't want them to think that now I've come home because I'm going to waste away and die.
For those who detect the virus early, medical breakthroughs have made living with HIV possible. But HIV can still be a death sentence if left untreated. In Jackson, Mississippi, a young man has gone 3 years without taking medication and is about to learn how untreated HIV can become fatal. The cemetery is an unusual place for a young man to frequent, but Ja'Cory comes here often. 3 years ago, Ja'Cory was diagnosed with HIV. At 26, he's a young man who feels old before his time and fears his days are numbered.
I'm always wondering, is this gonna be when I die?
So I come out here just to get a reminder that, okay, you still have breath.
I don't see myself being 60. I maybe see 35, but I don't see that far.
Ja'Cory has a dream for a future in fashion, but doesn't know if he'll live to see it.
I often compared myself to the image that I felt I should be. I would look at pictures of myself and just go like, all he had to do was graduate college and have a family, and it would be perfect. But somehow, I took another route, and I was gay, and I had HIV.
In Jackson, Mississippi, Ja'Cory is not alone. The American South is a hotbed for HIV. It's home to half of all new HIV diagnoses, and the hardest hit are young Black men who have sex with other men.
My location is physically Mississippi, mentally elsewhere.
In conservative Jackson, the dating pool is limited.
I'm a 26-year-old HIV positive Aries looking for more than the average punk can offer.
Ja'Cory is part of an alarming trend. At the current rate of infection, 1 in 4 gay Black men will become HIV positive by the time they're 25. And in Jackson, here's why.
Most metropolitan areas have activities for the gay community. Here, not at all. It's a small circle. So a lot of times if you had him, then he's had him, and you've had him, and you both have had him. And this is how it goes.
And although Black gay men are not necessarily engaging in more promiscuous behavior, some studies show they are more likely to drop the condom once a relationship gets serious.
I feel that here it is very common for the condom to come off. We have a Southern hospitality that also has a subheading of trust.
This is how it was for Ja'Cory. A few years ago, he met another young man and fell in love.
I gave my complete trust to him. I knew his birthday, his favorite song, what he liked eating. I knew everything about him.
What Ja'Cory didn't know was that his lover had HIV.
I finally found a man I'm in love with. I never thought, let me go check on myself. But I started noticing these different symptoms, and I was like, this isn't normal. So I was prompted to go to the clinic.
Initially, Ja'Cory tested negative for HIV.
I was like, I'm negative. But after a little while, I knew that could have changed, and that's when I became uncertain. I really feared what I may find out.
It can take up to 6 months after sexual contact to detect the virus. And when Ja'Cory retested, his fears were confirmed. He was now HIV positive. Unemployed and uninsured, Ja'Cory didn't pursue medical attention.
When I was diagnosed, I didn't take medication because I didn't have insurance. And the process to get your medication sponsored is so strenuous. You're left all alone to figure it out by yourself. There's so many younger people out here, they don't know what to do with HIV.
Ja'Cory's experience is not unique. 1/3 of all HIV-infected people aren't getting any treatment because they can't afford it. But 5 months ago, Ja'Cory's circumstances improved. He landed a job and health insurance. And today, he's finally ready to confront his fears. This is his first doctor's appointment in over a year.
Ja'Cory, HIV has taught me not to have any expectations. It would be good to know what I'm up against.
Without medication to keep his HIV in check, he has no idea how far the virus has progressed or how his immune system is doing.
You've already found out you're HIV positive, but you can still have full-blown AIDS.
Hey.
Hello.
So, I'm glad you made it.
Infectious disease specialist Dr. Barnes has the results of Ja'Cory's blood test.
When you came in 2010, your CD4 count was over 500. It's now 408. Your viral load, though, is going up. When you first came, it was only like 500 copies, and this time it's 38,000. Your immune system has taken a hit. It's not in a normal position, but it's not AIDS.
The news is not good. Though it's not AIDS, Ja'Cory's viral load, the amount of HIV in his blood, has skyrocketed, and his CD4 cell count, which protects his immune system, is dropping. He needs to begin treatment.
The medication I'm going to start you on, it's a pill called Complera. It's one pill, one time a day, and it's something new. It's been on the market a couple of years now. I know already that the virus is going to respond to it. So the only thing I have no control over is if you don't take that medication, okay?
Okay.
Although Ja'Cory's numbers show the virus has progressed, he still has a chance to turn it around.
I feel very relieved. The only thing is taking a pill every day, but at this point I feel a little stronger than I felt in a while. So.
While Ja'Cory is only now starting medical treatment for HIV, I'm about to meet a 24-year-old man born HIV positive who has fought hard to stop the virus in its tracks. At 24 years old, Tom is a survivor.
I went from taking 14 pills a day to taking 8, to taking 4, to taking 3, and now I'm on 1.
Let's go ahead and listen to your heart and your lungs, see how things are going.
He visits Dr. Flanagan every 3 months for a checkup.
Deep breath. Wonderful. Okay. I was looking at your viral loads, and they're totally non-detectable. You know, here they are, and you can see.
We see how it makes a difference when you're taking medicine versus not.
Is undetectable?
Well, it really means that we've stopped the disease in its tracks. So we tell patients that we've not been able to cure HIV, that HIV is still present, but the medication essentially puts the virus on ice. That means it's not causing damage in your body. It means your immune system's doing great. It also means, and this is new, is that the risk of transmission goes way down.
Tom has maintained his undetectable HIV status for 10 years, but the journey to get here began more than 2 decades ago.
So I'll add, so the doctor is saying that his HIV status is undetectable. He's been taking his medicine, unlike the gentleman we saw before him who went like 3 years without taking any medicine. So his numbers, everything is kind of high, and he got to try to, start taking his medicine to try to bring him down. This young man, all his life, he was born, I think they said, with HIV. So all his life he's been, taking care of himself, taking his meds. Now it's to the point he's undetectable. So with that being said, you have people out here who have HIV, who, undetectable, according to how this doctor said, for the reasons. And because of that, they are having unprotected sex with people. So that's been an ongoing conversation, debate, whatever that I've heard, people having when it comes to that. Is it still cool that someone who's quote unquote undetectable is still out here having unprotected sex? Should they still be protecting themselves? I feel like, you should just still be protecting yourself. I just think that people who aren't in committed relationships just with one person and there's a trust there and you guys are good. I just think if that's not your situation, you should be protecting yourselves. But like I said, some of these people who have the virus, they are not using protection because they are being told, hey, it's undetectable. So therefore, you're good. I don't know if it's been advised by their doctors, hey, you don't need to protect yourself when you have sex, but I've heard someone out here, popular content creator here on the internet, talk about, being HIV positive and not being detectable, not, sharing their status, protect, like it's levels to it. It is levels to it. So that's why I'm like, y'all, just protect yourself. Just protect yourself. Don't let someone control your fate. Like, listen, you take it into your hands and be like, nah, if you're gonna get these cookies, we about to wrap it up. We about to use this. Like that's gonna be best. Best. Sheik, they got you. Yes, like y'all take care of yourselves. Let's get back to this documentary. Like, share, and subscribe.
In 1990, Tom contracted the virus from his HIV positive mother, who infected him during childbirth. Tom survived, but his mother didn't.
This right here is my biological mother who passed away when I was 3. She was in the 8th stage of HIV. Her hair was falling out, her teeth were falling out. She was getting skinnier.
When your mom was sick, not that much was really known about the disease. People were just starting to kind of understand it.
Right. It was basically a death sentence back in the 90s. I just remember her suffering for a pretty long time before she died.
With his mother sick and his dad in jail, Tom was placed in a nursery for babies with HIV and AIDS.
We were like the unwanted children.
How did that make you feel as a little boy, though?
I really thought that, I was cursed when I was younger. I had a lot of anger. It was a hard time for me.
But Tom didn't stay an orphan for long. He was adopted at age 3 and welcomed into a new home in a white middle-class suburb of Providence. Tell me about your adoptive parents.
I don't really call them adoptive parents. Those are my parents, you know what I'm saying? My mom, she's actually the one that helped me form my voice.
To create a world where Tom could feel comfortable, his new parents took cues from the national media.
The basketball star Magic Johnson confirmed a short while ago that he has the AIDS virus.
In the early 90s, news was abundant of beloved heroes coming forward with their own confessions.
I'm going to go on, I'm going to beat it, and I'm going to have fun.
I have known, of course, that I have AIDS since September 1988.
Speaking out raised awareness, and Tom's family followed suit.
My mom used to sit down with school committees, teachers, parents, and try to educate them about HIV and how to deal with, me growing up.
Tom's story even caught the attention of a local newspaper. And although the article promoted love and acceptance, it branded Tom with a scarlet letter.
Parents didn't want their kids to sit around me because they were afraid that they would get the disease. I wasn't allowed to play football, and sometimes I wasn't even allowed to play basketball. And basketball was one of my favorite sports growing up. The coaches would be like, we can't have you on the team. What if you bleed? A lot of kids would come up to me that I wouldn't even know, and they'd ask me, hey, do you have AIDS? It made me feel like an outlaw, like I was some type of monster.
Tom's adopted sister, Kaylee, often witnessed the discrimination.
He was playing basketball with a couple of other kids, and it got brought up that Tom had HIV. I remember it blowing up pretty fast.
Yeah.
Kaylee, when did you start to understand that he had this affliction?
I think when I was about 10 years old, and my friend came over, and she was sleeping over, but her grandpa had told her not to eat any of the food because he said that it was contaminated, and she spent the whole entire sleepover eating from a lunch bag that she brought. That's when I really understood, people didn't look at him the same way that everyone did in our family.
10 years have passed since that day, but Tom still feels the stigma of HIV, especially as a young man who wants to date and one day get married. Do you respect that some women might not want to date you because of your HIV status?
I kind of do respect that, but I feel a little bit judged by that. It's kind of like you're not going to give me a chance because of my HIV. I take my meds, and every time I have sex, I use a condom. I don't want to give somebody this disease. I don't ever want somebody to go through the same things I went through. The disease stops at me.
He's a very responsible young man.
There's no denying that HIV, even with all we know, remains to some a shameful disease. And it's why support and education are so important.
Hi, Ms. J. This is Daphne. How you doing? Okay. Now let me ask you this. What do you need me to do?
I go to work every day because I feel like someone needs me. Maybe I have found love in the right place.
I'm joining Daphne at the Women's Collective's weekly coffee house, a safe place for women to support each other without judgment. Founder Pat Knowles is living with AIDS.
As women, we are beaten down every day out there, outside of these walls. And then you add HIV and we know you're a bad woman automatically.
Can I ask why you think so many women in the African American community are contracting HIV?
It has a lot to do with fear. If we weren't afraid, we could just write him off.
hey, there's a door, you don't want to use condom, hit the road, to have this conversation. It's hard.
Has anybody had people who turn their backs on you because of your HIV status?
Well, I still live with family members who are ashamed of me. When I go out in the street and I go some places, people make me feel so bad.
I think sometimes we feel like we bring shame to the family too. For me, it was, how's this going to affect my kids? How is school going to treat them? How are the kids on the block going to treat them if they find out?
I'm reminded yet again how difficult it is for these women to share their stories, the courage it must take to speak out in public.
This is coming out for me. Doing this right here is coming out for me, okay? People don't know my business or my story. So now people gonna see me. So I don't know if somebody's gonna be angry with me, but that's the chance I'm gonna take. Yeah.
Back in Virginia, Kimberly is getting ready to take her own chance. It's time to share her diagnosis with her family. For the last 3 years, Kimberly has kept her HIV positive status a secret from her 2 sisters. Today, she's ready to break the news about her diagnosis. Sometimes it's hardest to open up to the people who you love the most. Okay, so Kimberly's sisters have arrived, and we all came outside to give them some privacy, but they've allowed us to put microphones on them so that we can listen in. And then afterwards, Kimberly will come out and let us know if her sisters will agree to talk to us.
I wanted to share, but it was never the right time. And it's definitely not something that's easy to do. And you might not understand me saying it, but we found out that he had AIDS, and he didn't tell me before we got married. And so I've been diagnosed as HIV positive.
Oh, Kim. Wow.
Yeah. And I'm not ashamed anymore. I'm not scared. I'm happy right now. I'm happy. I'm happier than I ever been.
I'm happy that you're happy. I'm sad to hear the news, of course, because I'm a little floored. I'm just a little. You're my sister. I love you. Because you don't want to live forever.
You can hear in Patricia's voice the shock, but she's just trying to be really supportive of her sister. Ooh, how you feeling?
That's a heavy weight off my shoulders.
We were listening in, and Patricia just has so much faith in you.
I hope that this will bring us even closer together because, again, with me being gone so long, there's been a distance. And I need my sister. Yeah.
Feeling relieved.
It's good she let her family know because mental health, you can't go through something like this by yourself. You need people to lean on those rough days.
Kimberly's news caught her sisters off guard.
So
although emotions are mixed, they've agreed to talk. She shared it. Patricia, not quite the news you were expecting, huh?
No. No.
How do you feel?
I feel sad. But at the same time, I'm encouraged because she's in a good place emotionally. And that's important.
Brenda, do you have any thoughts?
I think Kim's in a better place emotionally, but most of all spiritually. I think she's in a real good place. And that's going to help her more than anything.
Hey, Divine, welcome.
Here, as Kimberly
Happy holidays. Hope you had a good Christmas.
Kimberly wants to go and share this message with churches. How do you think she'll be received?
I think that she's going to change the course of a lot of people's lives just by virtue of the fact that she's going to be bold enough.
The support system is so strong.
There are a lot of people in church that may have AIDS, and they walk around with the shame.
It makes a difference
when you
how
can
you
be
mentally
free and transparent
handle
enough to
news
share.
like this.
That's one of the things I've learned is that we all have a purpose. And a lot of times it's tied
This
to
isn't
some of the
something
most
anyone should have
difficult
to go through
and
alone.
hard things, that we face or have faced. I'm hoping that my message will encourage people to be released and free from shame and from the past.
Now that she has the support of her family, Kimberly feels empowered to take her message to a larger
Makes a
crowd.
difference.
There are a lot of things that have gone unaddressed in the Black community, from the pulpit on down. It just takes a few people that are willing to step up and say, we're really going to address this.
Kimberly has made it her mission to address HIV. She wants to help others who are suffering in silence understand that they're not alone. And she plans to start by speaking at local churches.
Sent out about 100 letters, and I've gotten one response. One response.
But finally, a church has agreed.
People don't want to deal with this subject. People will talk all day about craziness, but the real stuff, people don't want to deal with it.
While many are still reluctant to talk about what has been called God's curse for homosexuality, This
doesn't
church
make
has
it go
opened its
away. That's why our
doors.
numbers
And
are
so,
so
Father
bad.
God, we just thank you today
People in
for
our
this
community are
opportunity to
in
gain
denial.
knowledge, Lord.
No longer imprisoned by her past, Kimberly is now using the pulpit to raise HIV awareness in the house of God.
In Jesus' name, amen. 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 The church has always been a place of healing. It's always been a place where people can come when they're hurting and when they need help. We've always stepped up when some.
And here's the thing, a lot of times in the church, people don't feel like they can go to church and be themselves. They don't feel like they're welcome. And given the fact that there are high numbers of HIV cases in the South, that's also the Bible Belt where most of these churches are. And these same people who are infected do not feel like they could go to the church because out of fear of judgment. Divine says, sad, but this topic really needs to be addressed more, along with the mental health that it affects as well. Yes, people just don't want to talk about it. It's almost like, I feel like within our community, Black community, it's like, okay, if you don't talk about it, then it's not a thing. And the thing I say a lot on my platforms is that just because you're choosing to not talk about it, it doesn't mean that it's not a thing, that it doesn't exist. You're just not talking about it, but it's still there. A thing is still a thing. And I think the reason too, with our numbers, with HIV cases being so high in the Black community, is that it's a cultural thing to just brush things or sweep things underneath the rug, not talk about it. It's almost like people in the family know certain things that happened or that's happening, but it's like, okay, well, don't talk about it. And then people go on and not talk about it. And next, now you have a new generation where the same toxic behaviors and activities are taking place. And again, the message is don't talk about it. And this is where we are. So people are, contracting HIV, AIDS, and they're just not talking about it because it's like taboo, just even homosexuality. Of all the groups of people, like the Black group of people is the most accepting of it. So I think, that contributes to high numbers of download cases in it because, it's not as accepted as it is in other groups, like, the Hispanic group, the white group, the Asian group. It's like with the Black community, it's like once it's known that this is how you roll, then you're not accepted. So people just try to keep it a secret, and especially being in the South. And because most of what I've come to learn is most of these HIV cases are in the South. Crazy, y'all. It's crazy. Divine says, exactly, Sheik. So true. Pretending it doesn't exist won't make it go away. I don't know when people are going to realize that, but I truly feel like people really think that that's how things work. And it's delusion. It's delusional. SW Ving says, hi, I have a friend who is HIV positive. She takes medications and her viral load is down. About 18 months ago, HIV spread to her brain. She almost died, but is still here with us, but with a mental age of 13 years old. Wow, that is crazy. I'm happy to hear she's still here, but that's just the thing. And I'm wondering, it makes a difference with how soon you start taking your medication, the consistency that you're taking that medication, like all of that makes a difference, y'all. Like all of that. You can't be on okay, I took my medication today and I'll take it on MLK Day. It don't work that way. Like you got to be on top of it. And it seems like, I don't know like what percentage of people who stay on top of their medication, but as we talked about, as they discussed in this documentary, a lot of this is centered around money, resources, and things like that. So again, when you're dealing with medications, pharmaceutical, like you're either having to have medical insurance to cover that, or you got to have money, a job, just to be able to pay for these medications, because these are things that you have to take like every day for the rest of your life. So that means you're going to need to have some type of medical benefits to kind of keep that up, or you're going to have your finances in order if you're going to be, paying out of pocket for these medications. So I do believe that probably with a good percentage of people, lack of resources could very well contribute to I'm not going to say the spread of it, because I don't think that has anything to do with it. I think the lack of resources could contribute to just the survival rate of those who do have it, as far as with how long they live, or it makes a difference on the quality of life they have while living with it, because it seems like the medicine kind of helps you to just feel more comfortable. So, you know, the HIV, whatever, it's still there, but the medicine kind of helps you feel more comfortable, where you're maybe not as in much pain, or maybe it's not spreading, as this person, you know, S.W. Ving said that with their friend, where it spread to the brain. So the resources does make a difference, but that's a separate point from just spreading it, where people are still having unprotected sex and still going, like, that's just a mentality. That's just a mindset right there, where someone is aware that they have it and they're still going out there having sex recklessly. Like, that's just a mindset. The question is, where does that come from? Why do people feel like it's okay to have that type of mindset? It's just crazy to me. Yes. Yeah. S.W. Ving says, yes, when you start taking meds, makes a difference. She is in South Africa and contracted there, but now has meds. That's good to know. The earlier, the better. And that's just with any type of diagnosis, even like if someone who's dealing with cancer. Over the weekend, I learned of a family member, my mom's only brother, you know, being diagnosed with cancer, cervical cancer, would know what kind of cancer he has. I think prostate cancer. And I don't know, we're still trying to learn like what stage it is, if whether or not it was detected early on. But he said he hadn't had any symptoms or anything like that. But he's already, you know, within the first 12 hours of learning, he had it, underwent surgery. Yesterday, you know, after a day, less than 24 hours after being released from the hospital, had to be rushed back to the hospital. So it makes a difference on when you're learning of conditions that you have. That's why it's important to get your annual checkups, men and women. I do know men are worse at it, with kind of stand on top of their stand on top of just their just taking care of themselves, as far as with going to the doctor, making sure everything is good. Women tend to do better with that, with their annuals, making sure we going and getting that in. A lot of times men, they only gonna go if they feel like something's wrong with them, which is what prompted my uncle to go to the doctor, because he felt like, okay, he was, feeling pain or whatever. But I'm pretty sure he wasn't no person to go once a year like a lot of women go. And the reason why it is good to go regularly, at least every 12 months, is because at least if something is detected, is not something you've been living with longer than a year. You know what I'm saying? Because you go every year. That's why it's good to go and seek out medical treatment, just to make sure everything's all good each year, so you can have an early detection in the event that there is something that came back as a positive for, any type of particular, testing. It's very unfortunate, but money, resources, and all that does play a part in that when it comes to people becoming aware of their circumstances. That does make a difference. I definitely feel like our country, America, USA, can afford to do just a far better job in the area of healthcare, because I think if healthcare was something that was more accessible for people, I think that's when we would deal with, the early detections of things, people getting on medication sooner. So the breakdown in our healthcare system is like a big problem. And then given with just even the Black community and just resources, just the economic situations that a lot of Black people are in, as far as with the money and resources, with not being like high income earners in comparison to other groups like your Asians and the white people, like it makes a difference. It makes a difference, because typically someone who has good health insurance is more apt to kind of use it versus somebody who really don't have it. Like, you see most time people I know who got like insurance, and they say they even got good insurance, like these people don't play when it comes to going and getting checked out, because they know they have access to it. It's these people out here who don't have access to these resources like that, who are just taking L's when it comes to their health, and has us to be, watching documentaries like these. So it's twofold. It's we're dealing with just awareness from the, the healthcare system, but then we're also dealing with the psyche of just an individual who is choosing to move around recklessly. And that's just the sad part about it, because right there, that's a mentality. PM says embarrassment is a problem some may have in getting treatment. Yes, because embarrassment, but also some people live in denial, just not even wanting to acknowledge or own up to the fact of having something. And then also not wanting to acknowledge like your reckless behaviors, because I feel like a lot of people who are contracting HIV, it's as a result of their reckless behaviors, things that they were doing. I think you're going to have those cases where somebody was like, oh, I was just with this person and they was out doing the most and gave it to me. I think more often than not, like, people are just demonstrating reckless behavior. And as a result of that, this is what's happening. They're contracting HIV, reckless behaviors through sex, drugs. Then, they talked about in this documentary, people going into the penal system, they're going to jail, going to prison, men in there contracting HIV there from sex, from what they say, dirty needles from the tattoos. And what was the other one? There was a third one. They said they were contracting it from it was a couple. I think it was a third one. I can't think of right now. But a lot of men are like contracting it in there, but then some are like having it before they go in there. And then maybe while they're in there, they learn they have it, or when they leave, they learn they have it. So it's multiple ways that, people are contracting HIV, as far as we, with the circumstances. And I truly believe in most cases, the person has control over it, and it's rooted in behaviors. Just running amok out here, just running amok. Somebody told them they cute, they fine. And this is men and women, and they out here trying to see something. They out here in these streets. And while they're out here in these streets, they messing around catching something. And then they catching some, and then they spreading it to the next person. And now we're here today, the day after Christmas, talking about how 40% of 1.2 million people living with HIV in the U.S. are Black. And a large number of those cases are here in Metro Atlanta, where I currently reside. Crazy, y'all, crazy. But let's get back to this documentary. We're wrapping it and nearing the end. But fair use, please like, share, and subscribe.
Something was going on in our community. Well, HIV and AIDS is devastating our community. Just by a show of hands, how many people have been affected by HIV? There are people that are dealing with this in silence because of the shame and the stigma. I have experienced the shame. I have experienced the stigma because I myself was diagnosed as HIV positive in March of 2010. And it's a hurting thing. It really is a hurting thing. The church is that one place where we should be able to come to get our spiritual needs met and our emotional needs met. And it is my personal mission that God be glorified through my life. So thank you so much.
For Kimberly, this day marks a turning point in her journey with HIV. By revealing her own status to the congregation, she's opened the door for others to come forward.
It's just a testament that no matter what it is that we're dealing with, there's life after it, and there's hope after it, and there's the ability to have peace and to have joy.
Kimberly, that was amazing.
Thank you.
I saw the numbers of hands that went up, people who know someone with HIV or that's affected, and there were quite a few hands that went up.
And I even had a couple of people in that group to tell me that they too are dealing with HIV.
Just today?
Just today.
Wow.
So if I just say, I've lived through this, I think it's just much more powerful.
Back in Rhode Island, Sonny too is trying to help others like him by sharing his own history of unsafe sex and addiction. At Amos House, he runs a 90-day program for recovering addicts and formerly incarcerated men.
When's the last time he was in jail?
About 4 years ago.
4 years ago.
Here, Sonny steers men towards better decisions and away from the mistakes he once made.
Have you been tested for HIV, all that stuff since then? No. Them are the things that we need to start doing. I know a lot of guys don't get tested just because they're afraid they got it. You know what I mean? And that's not good, because the sooner you know, the better it is that you can start to take care of it. There's no possible way for me to make up for all the wrong that I've done. I just believe that I'm not that same person, and if I try to deter people from being them kind of people, that, you know, eventually I'll earn my ticket to where I'm going after this place.
And while Sunny now advocates frequent HIV testing and promotes safe sex to others, Ja'Cory is taking a critical step to save himself.
Hey, can I help you?
I was in a prescription field.
Okay, great.
He has finally come to understand that unless he starts treatment and sticks with it, HIV will take over and become AIDS.
I hope that at some point I do become undetectable. So it means that it's under control.
Tonight's stories remind us that HIV is a virus that never went away. The epidemic has exploded in African American communities, but we can do our part to fight back and prevent more infections by getting past the shame, promoting dialogue, practicing safe sex, getting tested, and treated.
We've got you ready. Did you have any questions about your medication today?
No, ma'am, I'm all okay. Bye-bye, y'all.
Because while there isn't a cure, it is still possible to live a healthy life with HIV.
With the medication, I probably won't think about death so much. I want to be able to see myself at 35 and 40 and 45, 50, and so on and so forth. I have a little more time to take my time to do what I want to do.
What's sad is that, you know, this young man, he's super young, and the idea of like living a long life, you know, like past 30, it's just like prior to him taking the medicine, it was just like not a thing. And taking the medication it does make a huge difference on just the quality of your life, you know, while living with the virus, the HIV virus. But it makes a difference on just like your life expectancy. Like it makes a difference. And a lot of people are running around in denial about HIV and what it means, how you can get it. PM says, I also think pride plays a factor in getting tested and being accountable for their behavior as if it can't happen to them. Yes, because a lot of times when you know something, when you become aware of something, you're forced to have to take, you have to acknowledge it and you have to take responsibility. You have to kind of sit in that and own that and really think about the things that you've done, the decisions that you've made, like all of that. And people don't want to do that. A lot of people are still running around thinking that it's still a gay person's disease. So because of that, they're like, oh, okay, well, that can't happen to me because, I'm heterosexual. I'm not gay. So here's some information I found that I want to leave you all with pertaining to just the virus, just so you'll just know more when you leave here. And let me see. Let's see. Got a lot of tabs open. Okay, so it's saying in 2024, Black people account for a disproportionate share of HIV diagnosis, people living with HIV and deaths from HIV in the United States. So here, it talks about how Black people are less likely to take HIV medications and may be unaware that they have HIV positive. Some Black people also mistakenly believe that HIV is a disease that primarily affects white people and gay men. National Black HIV/AIDS Awareness Day is on February 7th. And the theme for this year's is engage, educate, and empower. So here, with the whole movement, it's aimed at increasing HIV education, testing, treatment among Black communities. That is something to where clearly we can use doing more of that. But I really think that a focus really needs to be centered on just the whole ideology and belief system centered around AIDS and how one catches it, what it means, how long you can live. Like, I don't know. It's just this whole psychological thing that's going on when I think about AIDS and how people think about it, because they're aware of people are aware of the medications like PrEP, things like that that's out there. But it's like it's not even making a difference based off of the way that these numbers are growing. It's like it's just not making a difference. So we have to figure out what is it that's going to make a difference for people to stop moving the way they are, which is contributing to the growth in the increase in the number of HIV cases. I think that a lot of it just has to do with hyper sex, everything today, when it comes to just music, television, everything is just so hypersexual. And whenever we see that, or let's just think about just our favorite artists, in movies, shows, when people talk about sex, engaging in sex, how often is condom inserted in the conversation where that becomes a thing, or that's like part of the scene where someone's pulling out a condom? Like, we do not see that. We do not see that. We just hear about, listen, handling your business. We see them get down, but it's not like enough talk centered around, okay, the preparation before getting into the act, which is protecting yourself using, a condom and things like that. Spending the adequate amount of time with getting to know someone. They ain't putting that, y'all, in the lyrics about, really trying to get to know somebody, taking your time. It's more so about, listen, I just met me a baddie and I slayed her that night. Like, this is like what we're hearing. And I'm sure that has a lot to do with our high number of cases, and especially with the younger people, because going off of the stats, it's more of the younger generation, like the people who are like under 30, who are driving the large increased number in HIV cases. PrEP. I've been hearing a lot of talk as far as about PrEP, and some people will say, they'll go into like see comments on just different stories and things centered around HIV and the things that, just anything centered around HIV. And it's like, there's more conversation centered around PrEP versus talks of preventing. PrEP isn't a preventive. PrEP is more so like something post after you get it. Hey, take your PrEP. It's not like something in the forefront. So what is PrEP? What is PrEP? So let's see what this website has to say about PrEP. Let me see, because I've been reading about that, or seeing that that's coming up a lot, and it just seems like there's more talk around that versus, preventative. So let me see. Let's see. I just want to find a site that it kind of give us a good understanding. It's like these sites. Protein reduction, daily PrEP, efficiency, safety, large scale. I want to find like a good. Okay, so let's see what this says. Okay, so here's something that kind of talks about PrEP, because this is coming up a lot. PrEP, so pre-exposure prophylaxis, PrEP, is a medication that can reduce the risk of getting HIV through sex or injection drug use. How it works: PrEP is taken by people who are HIV negative, but at high risk of exposure to HIV. It's highly effective when taken as prescribed. So you have a lot of people, and when it comes to the conversation of HIV, they're just saying, hey, take PrEP. PrEP seems like it's a drug to where you take it and it prevents you from contracting HIV. So with having that conversation, that's removing the responsibility from that person with just doing better and making better decisions. It's almost like, like an easy way. Oh, well, yeah, HIV out here running rampant. Hell, go get you some PrEP and then do your thing. Then just continue to do all that you do, because you got your PrEP. And that's just not what should be pushed. It shouldn't be about, hey, get PrEP because HIV out here and you can possibly contract it. The message should be centered around what not to do to get HIV. You see what I'm saying? So it's almost like it's the wrong thing being pushed. And that again goes back to the mindset that people have when it comes to this whole HIV thing, and maybe not even taking it serious, because you got products out here that's being pushed that's supposed to combat that, that's supposed to protect you from that. So if people are thinking like, oh, well, there's a product for that, as long as I take that product, I don't have to worry about that. I don't have to be responsible with how I move and just not do certain things. I can still do all the stuff that I've been doing or I choose to. I'll just take my PrEP. And that's the wrong message. And that's why we're in this situation. That is why we're in this situation. Because even though PrEP is being pushed, clearly a lot of people in large numbers aren't taking it. Because again, even if people in large numbers were taking it, our numbers wouldn't look the way that they look. So they're pushing something, and to me, it's looking like it's really not making a difference. It's not making a difference. So we got to do something differently if what we're doing right now is not making a difference. And if pushing PrEP is what we're doing in our community, then we need a new movement, because this one right here ain't doing it. We about to go into 2025. We need to find something else, because the whole push for PrEP ain't doing it. I think what we need to be focused on is pushing for people to just be more responsible when it comes to sexual behavior, sexual activities. For our young people, pushing, encouraging, abstinence. I don't know, but PrEP ain't it. PrEP, I don't know. PrEP is a failed movement, y'all, to me. It failed. It hasn't worked. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. PM says, yes, protection is in any of those songs and movies. No, they don't mention none of that. They just say, get it in. And think about it, when you compare like our music within the Black culture and then other groups of people music, our music is more hypersexual to me than like the other like groups of, the groups of people, like their music. So it has to be something there, y'all, because our numbers are like almost half the cases. That's crazy. And they said we like 13, 14% of the population in the US. How our population number like is so small, but though when it comes to the cases of HIV is so big. Like, it's crazy when I think about just when it comes to just the negative things that takes place in our society, how for Black people, like a lot of times our numbers are high, but though from a population standpoint, we're like a small percentage still. And like when I think about just babies out of wedlock, what else? Just the percentage of Black people who are married, the percentage of couples by race who are getting a divorce. It's like we lead in all these categories, but though as a whole, like the percentage, like we make up such a small percentage. It's just crazy. So again, it has to go back to the mentality. PM says, shake my head. Who would prescribe that? That's horrible. Somebody out here prescribing it. Brad Baby said, almost like it's done by design, population control. Yes, I mean, it's layers to it. That's what prompted me to want to talk about this today, because the numbers are so crazy to where it has to be something that we're not tapping in on, that's contributing to driving these numbers. And just today, I've just kind of mentioned just a bunch of like different reasons that can contribute to our numbers being high. But we have to do like a hard pivot, because child, with the way these numbers are going, and they are growing, these numbers are growing. They're not going in the opposite, like they're going up, not down. They're going up. So because those numbers are going up, guess what? It's going to contribute to like higher death rates, because everybody's not going to be taking medication. We just watched the documentary. We saw one young man. He's like, listen, he knew he had it for 3 years and didn't take nothing. Now he like, okay, I'm ready now to acknowledge that a thing is a thing, and I'm ready to do something about it. Then we had the other young man. All his life, he been taking something. And he's, the doctors say when they test him, it's like he comes up almost like, the HIV is like non-detected. So it does make a difference if you are taking your medicine. That young man, he was born, his parents just, he got it from, at birth. So he had no control. Like his case wasn't from his inability to be responsible. Whereas like the other young man believed like his case was a result of like his just reckless like behaviors. And there's another, and I may come back on another live and do it where I'll talk about just when it comes to the Black community and homosexuality and in the South. So there was like a documentary I came across that took place, I think it was like 8 years ago in Jackson, Mississippi. I did not know that Jackson, Mississippi, like had high numbers of like HIV, and that, when it came to homosexuality, it is just so taboo on the level that it is. Like, it's crazy. I learned it was just a lot. And I think the document is made like 15 minutes. It's about 15 minutes. So I may come back on another live. Make sure you all like, share, and subscribe so you'll know. But I want to show you that documentary because it profiles, it's nothing but men, like Black men. And they're just talking about just their story living in Jackson, Mississippi, and just first of all, just being gay is just a whole struggle for them there. And then you add they Black, and then you throw in HIV. Look, call the police. Like, they just down, just all the way down. This is how they feel because they got all these strikes against them. So again, this starts to have an impact on your mental health, is because you're like enduring all of this. Many of them, of course, right away did not tell anybody. So they were just dealing with this by themselves. You got so many people who are aware. I think I read a stat that was like, let me see if I can find it. It talked about like the large number of people who are living with it and don't even know. It was like something crazy, like 150,000 people, y'all, who are out here with it and don't even know. That don't even know. And then we see through these documentaries the people who do know how they're handling it. Some of them moving and acting like they don't know, because they still going along with business as usual and doing what it is they was doing before they came to even learn their status. So again, it's back to the psychological, the psyche. Why are people who are learning or coming to know what their status is still choosing to move recklessly? What is that about? We got to talk about that. That is where the focus need to be on, not this damn PrEP stuff, because we see it's not working. We have to attack it from the psyche. It's a psychological thing. Why psychologically people aren't accepting the fact that they have this illness and taking it serious and taking responsibility by taking their medication. Why? What is the root cause of that? That's what I want to talk about. That's what I like for you all to think about. Definitely drop a comment on the video. Let me know your thoughts about this. Do you know anyone who's battling with HIV/AIDS? What was their story? What is your story? How do you feel about just in general how the Black community treats people who have HIV or AIDS? How treat people who are a part of the community? Who are gay, lesbian, trans, all of that, the whole alphabet community. Like, what's your thoughts about how the Black community responds to people who are part of that community? Because there are a lot of people within that community who are dealing with HIV and AIDS, but you got people who are not a part of that community who got life twisted, who and still to this day think that only people within that community get it. Child, listen, yes, we going into 2025 and you still got people who still lost in the sauce who think that they are exempt or they're untouchable because I'm not gay, I'm straight, so that cannot happen to me. The devil is a lie. The devil is a lie. There's so many heterosexual people today who are walking around with HIV/AIDS. It's a thing. It is a thing. Hey, Suze, welcome. It is a thing. So thank you all for joining me on this. I just wanted to just talk about this because do your research, get into these numbers, start having these conversations with people who you care about, because it's definitely worth having the conversation, especially if you live in any of these cities where the numbers are really high. Top city HIV. Let me see. I'm going to show you all before we leave. I'm going to put this on your mind. I'm going to leave y'all with this. So listen, had these conversations. Right now, I have on my screen, let me make it bigger. This is what I found. The states with the highest HIV diagnosis. DC, you all, DC, District of Columbia, has the highest lifetime risk of HIV diagnosis. Y'all, DC is on my bucket list. I'm trying to get to DC in 2025. I want to go with the family, check it out. I have never been. But child, like I know it's a lot of us that's there. I hear that it's a place where a lot of Black people are really handling their business. They doing a doggone thing, just like I heard about with Texas, Houston. But at the same time, it seemed like places where Black folks doing a doggone thing, they doing a doggone thing. All right, you know, they outside in these streets. They are outside in these streets. They get into the bag, the money, but they also outside in these streets, hopping from pillow to post, catching some stuff. So DC, second, Georgia. Georgia has a high rate. Georgia, we were talking about this. That's my home. That's where I live right now. Georgia. 3, Louisiana. Louisiana, that's where my husband's mom, family, like his folks, his people. Louisiana. Louisiana is hot in the street. It's hot out there in Louisiana. Florida, who listen, where my Florida people at? Miami, welcome to all right then. Welcome to Miami, all right. Y'all better listen, when you know, pay attention, make note of these cities, these places, because these numbers are hot. Like it's hot out there in them streets. Texas. Remember, I heard a couple of years ago, Texas had a high number of syphilis cases. A lot of women in the hospital while they were giving birth were learning that they had syphilis. And guess who else was being impacted with that syphilis? The baby. Yep, the baby. The baby was being impacted with the syphilis as well, meaning now damn baby got syphilis. We got California. That's my birth state. That's my home state. I am from California. California has a high number of cases. Got Nevada, Maryland, Mississippi, South Carolina. Lifetime of HIV diagnosis is higher in the South than any other region of the country. In 2022, 52% of new HIV diagnoses were in the South, 21% were in the West, and 13 were in the Northeast, and 13 in the Midwest. What is going on in the South? Is like everybody just trying to be part, like what? Why the South? Everybody trying to be outside, everybody trying to party. Is it a college thing? We got the HBC. Like, what is the culture in the South that has people to be more at risk with catching HIV/AIDS? Because it's a thing, y'all. These are the numbers. This is what they said. I ain't make this issue up. This is what they said. And y'all need to be aware of this. Spread the word. Spread the word. Talk to the people. If you care about them, you know, these young folks, even you got some old fools out here still doing the absolute most. Everybody needs to know how serious this is. But yes, stay tuned. I want to come back out here and talk about just I want to drill down to just the South, in particular, Jackson, Mississippi, because remember that was on the list. But I found a documentary with some gay men that was telling their story in Mississippi, and they said some things that just I wasn't aware of as far as with the mindset, the ideology of just people in Mississippi when it comes to HIV/AIDS, homosexuality, like all of that. It's rough out there. It is rough. It's rough everywhere. Take care of yourselves, you all. I like to say, take care of yourselves and one another. Go out into this world and show up in a way in which you want others to show up for you, meaning like attracts like. Give off good energy. You give off good energy, guess what? You'll get good energy in return. Take care of yourself and one another. Heavy on the taking care of yourself. So many of us are out here trying to take care of everybody. Nobody taking care of us. We neglecting ourselves and we down bad. So that's the message. Hey, we're just a skip and a hop from 2025. Prioritize you in 2025. If it does not serve you, here's the thing, y'all. Get y'all list together, your pros and cons. If in 2024 you had somebody, some things, whatever it was, man, woman, job, whoever, neighbor, dog, cat, it hasn't been serving you. And when I say serving you, making you feel warm and fuzzy, you having more wins than losses. If it just ain't been hitting for you, y'all don't take that into 2025. Leave that here. Leave that behind. Leave that behind. We're done with just entertaining anything that's not serving us. It's time to move on. because likely you probably done brought it in from the other years. So we just not going to do that for 2025. Okay. We just going to let that sit there. We ain't doing that in 2025. we leaving all that's not serving us in 2024. So make sure you like, share, subscribe. I will definitely be back to talk more about this topic because it's a conversation that needs to be had. So everyone, spread the message because more people need to be engaged in these types of conversations because it's serious and it's definitely impacting the Black community in a negative way. You all, everyone, take care of yourselves and one another, and you all have a wonderful day. Merry Christmas, and soon we'll be saying Happy New Year. I'll talk to you all later. Peace.